A for Abdur by said Mujtabu Ali, and or Nimash, by Sormoresh Mojumdar. Abdur is the man Friday of the author in his travelogues. Such a character curve is like almost unseen. He transforms from a servant to a teacher of Mujtabu Ali in storylines set in Afghanistan. Also, his simplicity would be the key, I guess. He is one of the very few sidekicks who steals the page even in midst of a colorful crowd. Orn Emash, along with Madhabilota, does not need any introduction. We do not have Arche, so here he is leading a life of eternal sorrow and struggle. Based on the life, love and times during the aftershock of the Naxalbari movement in 70s set up across different places in Bengal, the structure of the sub-stories in the novels are no nonsense. Books are of course unputdownable, and Orn Emash's resonance will stay forever. B for Bantul the Great, by Narendra. The kids, or coming of age, magazines played big role in our childhood and Shuktara was the DC among them. Shuktara has many characters to fantasize upon or to befriend with. Bantul is the Superman there. Written and drawn by the most popular comic artist then and now, the guy is literally invincible. In many strips we see that bullets and shells bouncing back from his bare body, even in the famous front cover art of the comics. I once saw him to pull up a concrete road made out of chocolate and start having a bite from it. C for Colonel, by said Mustafa Siraj. Neela Drisaka was a colonel in Indian Army by profession and is lepidopterologist cum ornithologist by passion. And in meantime, this Santa Claus-esque old man solves mysteries along with his sidekick, the journalist Jayanto. His popularity went to such high that the publishers asked Mustafa Siraj to start the stories for children. I think there is no other similar phenomena in Bengal. D for Damarudhar, by Troylokianath Mukhopadhyay, and Deepkaku, by Sukanta Gangapade. This character needs films, discussion and seminars. Troylokianath wrote a character who is just not an anti-hero, but a full-mouth bad guy who rises from rags to riches by cheating others. And, in the stories, he is telling all those like tall tales of his life. He is a corrupt shopkeeper who has a bunch of audiences to brag about upon. If we dig deep, we can see that he got a subtle resemblance to the self-sarcasm of Mcharam or Kamalakanta, even Hootam. But most importantly, in post-Tagore era, the acceptance of Damarudhar's style drove other maestros to create more polemical leads followed by their series of stories. Deepkaku is another good built in recent times, who works with his friend's daughter. Out of every other rods, the stories even focus on his struggle to run his own private detective agency. Also, with an unimpressive outlook to be in this job, the stories are told from his teen assistant's perspective like a lot of others. The stories, mostly, start with a very common unsolved case where the assistant loses hope on the technique of the process, but in the end, it comes out to be a mystery of large scale and she understands that detection is not only about rules. But where is he now? E for Ekenbabu, by Sujan Dasgupta. He is the detective settled in New York. Even though the target readers were children in the beginning when the stories used to get published in Anandamala, our Marvel, but later the author started writing for, more likely, non-residential Bengalis. This has, like from Robert Blake to Masood Rana, all the Bondish thrills in the journey into detection. Also, as the real detective stories are meant to be in cities, big cities as background gives the apt canvas to stitch the tells. F for Feluda, by Satyajit Ray, Francis, by Anil Bhaumik, and Feyruz, by Nobarun Bhattacharya. To be on the safer side, Feluda has 2 Wikipedia pages and 19 films on him. Everybody here is a fan of Feluda. Let us find some drawbacks. 1. He is a bachelor with whom his cousin stays, and their parents allow this. 2. He is full of information. Jokes aside, these were the 2 things we were longing in our childhood and hence Feluda became our hero. For other information about him, Please Google. I think a very few people will remember. There used to be Viking pirates stories in both Shuktara and Anandomala. Just think how cool it is. The attempt is to portray a Viking crew by showcasing pirates' life in a positive way, much before Disney would start later. Forget about the monopoly of the big publishing house nowadays. The Francis Omnibus was bestseller in 90s. Coming to Feludas, they are the living men who can fly. Crafted by one of the most rebel writers of our time, these men are written as the subaltern self-acclaimed genius who play key role in all the underclass anarchy. Of course, magic realism, but they are our very own and from the slums and the flats of the city. They know, they show off and sometimes they do not. Do not RIP Nobaroon, just be like yourself. G for Ghananda, by Premendra Mitra, and Gopal by himself. Ganeshayam Das is the brightest example in the list of the polemical ones. He tells, makes up, every stories from a small reference from day-to-day life. And the tales are not only tall, but historically and geographically significant. Set off in the turmoil of pre-Second World War till the Cold Ones, his stories are the prequel, sequel or spin-offs of every political, mythological and scientific events. Only couple of his stories are having Bengal or even India as their background. Long live the Bengali Adas. I do not know the writer of the stories of Gopal, even though there is no authentic proof of the character. The hearsay reports tells that he was the court jester of King Krishna Chandra in the early 1700. The folk tales of his life became the funny anecdotes and later, jokes. Literary or not, he can be a cultural icon because of his raw and rural theme which makes him different than the same of Birbal or Nasreddin. Some people might not heard about Feluda, but it is hard to find a Bengali who is unaware of Gopal. H for Harshabardhan, by Shibram Chakraborty, and Himu, by Humayun Ahmed. The maestro penned down Harshabardhan as a successful black marketeer of timber woods, coming from another state and staying in suburbs with his wife and his brother Gopal, who is another main character of the stories. Most of the times, they are telling his life stories to the author. Yes, he himself is part of many, or going somewhere with him. As Shibram is telling these, the journal is full of wordplay, punning and other acerbi quit. This jobless romantic fellow has been an alter ego of every young Bengali guy and is continuing to do so. When I told jobless, that was by choice, not by force. Yes, a little bit satire of the job crisis in West Bengal and Bangladesh in last century. But this character even prefers begging than a routine job. He likes to walk a lot, rather than taking any kind of transportation. In his many social adventures, he visits a lot of places and builds relationships with many people that carries on with the story. His psychopathic father wanted him to be a great man, and he ends up with being just great like his real name Himuloy. I for Indranath Rudra, by Odrish Borden. Odrish is mainly famous for his science fiction works, and may be the best among all from Bengal. So, the detective cases are often rolls around something with the same genre or of a vastly international theme. Stories are old school, but that is the glue here. It is written as a journal of Indranath himself where the suspense is chilling and thrilling, in words directly from the author. J for Jayanta-Manik, by Hemendra Kumar Roy. I think this is one of the rare detective duos where the main man's name is taken along with the main guy. The author was a prominent pioneer of children's literature in Bengali and he already had another duo Bimal Kumar who were more into adventures. It is hard to believe that the dark themes of their cases were meant to be for kids. Or, on the other hand, he wanted to break the formalist terms of children's stories. Either way, these are pure pulp and hence, the purest of fiction. K for Kakababu, by Sunil Gangopadhyay, Kamalakanta, by Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay, Kikira, by Bimal Kaur, and Kiriti Roy, by Niharanjan Gupta. See, Kaur is the first consonant in Bengali alphabet and so many remarkable characters are named after so. Everybody is unique in their way. We can start with Kakababu A.K. Ara Aroj Adhari. He was the director of Archaeological Survey of India and got one of his toe fractured in an assignment in Afghanistan. Henceforward, he gets into many historic and geographic mysteries along with his nephew. Sunil's awesome style of spontaneous storytelling makes this uncompromising character build and surroundings of various places over India and the world so close to our realism that the lesser novels before Sunil's death we can forgive and forget. Coming to Kamalakanta, created by Bankim Chandra, who the most powerful novelist in 19th century. Where his most of the novels had some awesome female characters in lead, Kamalakanta and Mcharam till some extent, were part of small stories written mainly for magazines. Actually, Bankim Chandra was a magistrate and these stories are kind of feature or work experience of his job. Kamalakanta is an opium-loving Brahmin who knows his society and law's drawbacks very well. The lazy person can do anything for his evening vice but still does not lose the rationalism, both formal and unscripted. From Kamalakanta to Kikira, who prefers to call himself as Kikira the magician. He is not organized for detection business, but has to be in part of many because of the circumstances. Set up in older parts of the city, this guy is no less a new dubbers than the others and suffers from having stomach being upset. Very Bengali indeed. And my favorite among all the fictional Bengali private eyes. And, of course, Kiriti Roy, the most stylish detective Bengal has ever seen. Calcutta is portrayed in this stories like nothing before or after. The city and its citizens are gothic and noir at the same time. Like Swapan Kumar, Niharanjan was very good to build strong antagonists who are, in British-ruled India, sometimes plays the role of a Robin social reformerhood. And this is the magnet of the stories which Kiriti ravels with the reader. Elfalu Quartets, by Nalini Dash. Kalu, Malu, Bulu and Tulu, these young ladies are actually known as Goy and Gondalu in Bengali. Other than the easily connectable narratives, the series set up a path of a group as hero, mainly detectives instead of one detective and his protege or group of so. The infamous Pandob Goy and might got the inspiration from another American Five Kids gang, but gathered courage for acceptance in Bengal from this. Secondly, was not it cool to have some teenage girls as lead investigators in post-independence India, Masood Rana, by Kazi Anwar Hussain, and Meeteen Mashi, by Suchitra Bhattacharya. Masood Rana is our local fantasy of Western thrillers with more interesting cases. The beauty of the stories are that the author did not stop at any specific British or American characters but extracted from different subgenres of thriller from various languages. Very few of his stories are set up only in a single place. And guess what, he has almost 500 books under his name. Meeteen Massey is the female Feluda. As the author was best known to be a feminist one, she designed the character so like herself that rammed over the other contemporary detectives in Bengal. It started with harsh criticism but in 2 years she gained the popularity among the readers. Unlike most of the private eyes in Bengal, she solves crime along with her family where she gets equal amount of support and knowledge from different members in different fields of work. And yes, I am saying this, we are missing you, Mrs. Praparomita Mukherjee, N for Nilo Heat, by Nilo Heat, and Nonte Fonte, by Naran Debnath. Okay, Sunil Gangopadhyay had come with his pen name as Nilo Heat much before Himu existed. I guess he is a contemporary of Feluda by first publishing. This justification does not worth for the character like Nilo Heat, but this bohemian romantic also survived as another alter ego of the youth of us. Actually the original one. Set up in a residential school, Nonte and Fonte have very common problems like we had during school days. Fighting against bully from senior years Kale 2, canteen problem in hostel and principal's incorrect decisions, they have grown up. Or, they have not as still Naran Debnath is writing and drawing their comics within the school premises. Yes, another gem from the master. Oh for Arjun, by Somoresh Majumdar. To be accurate, he is Arjun, but you know Bengali pronunciation. He is the most straightforward detective in the list. Surprisingly, the author took his hometown to set up the storyline instead of Calcutta, the origin and workplace of most of other urbanized characters in our list. And, yes, it was a hit. The best part of the build is he is compassionate to others and one of the young icons who never kind of worked for money. I remember one of my friend telling that if he wanted to make a movie out of any fictional Bengali characters, it would be Arjun, Arjun, P for Pagla Dashu, by Sukumar A, and Professor Shonku, by Satyajit Ray. It is a sin not to read Dashu, or Dasharothi Ray. He is the most mischievous boy in the class but the most genius one too. First of all, Sukumar's classroom background was, is and always will be awesome. He is the author only can say that the best thing in the world is sliced bread and molasses. See how we are getting the theme of English ruled India in this single phrase. Anyways, coming back to the character. He is the crazy person whom nobody should mess up with. In our school days, the opposite of good was mischievous. Dashu was a much mature take on that which is still, really, relevant. No offense meant, Shonku is the Prokharudro of Satyajit. All nonsense scientific mumbo-jumbo is there. But again, which science fiction story is not like this? We cannot beat the character of a sage-like Indian scientist who is global and oriental in same frame. Also, some of the story's resolution is so much relieving and awesome, the entire series can be called as masterpiece. Shonku finds unicorns, El Dorado, aliens, alien plants, alien spaceships, alien messages, all in different stories, and a formula to develop diamond out of the things being used in daily life. This self-exiled inventor has as many patents almost as Thomas Alva Edison. And ironically, he does not believe in the concept of patenting. Q for Kolabati, by Moti Nandi, and Konkabati, by Troylokinath Mukhopadhyay. You guessed it right. We are running out of names starting with exotic alphabets. She is the one of very few sports icons in Bengal. She is more cool than Sheba or more hip than Nonida, both created by the same sports journalist turned novelist. Her first few stories were set up in the background of some outdoor games and sports, but later she started solving crimes like Gogol. But, in a much more realistic way. The author never could get rid of the sports theme from the stories, and Kolabati continues detecting suburban mysteries about baiting, switching between sporting clubs and so on. Konkabati is the princess of Kushumgati. Standing against all the contemporary folk and fairy tales of the late 19th and early 20th centuries of Bengal. This girl fights parademons, visits underwater fish kingdom and leads to adventures with her human and anthropomorphic friends. Full of subversive villains and conversations out of plot make the stories too much unique and reflects the actual country of that time. Afarapa Roy, by Sujog Bandyopadhyay. One of the very few original comics blotted up on the ruins of Anandamala and Shuktara. This is one of the outcome of Bengali comics culture when we thought Naran Debnath became obsolete and our government thought that the foreign comics are killing our local ones. Based on a young, semi-bald man from Calcutta with a motorbike and pair of glasses, this comics is still sticking around the modern-day organized crime in Bengal. We have always seen the angry father of Rapa who is never happy with his son's enthusiasm and adventures. He is not a detective but gets involved into the plot of the crime for the sake of the story. S for Shubhanalota, by Ashwaparna Devi. Most probably the strongest character in the list, just after Bantul the Great. Story's time is mid-1900s where the state and status of a woman in Bengal depended on her father, husband, son and mainly the in-laws. Shubhanalota has the perfect trilogy where she gets heavily inspired by the agony and will of her mother Shotabati in the first book, fights against society and every other housewives in the sequel, and starts having clashes with her daughter Bokul, who is actually her new age version, in the last part. Another unputdownable style of writing which grasps you after a couple of pages. T for Aranath Dantrik, by Bibhuti Bhushan and Aruados Bandyopadhyay, Irini Koro, by Satyajit Ray, and Tainida, by Narangongapadhyay. Aranath is not a god-man, but he practices many means of tantra. He hopped between burning grounds, burial grounds, villages, forbidden places for different secret sects in his youth to get the knowledge of all tabooed cultures. Sometimes he gets into trouble for his misuse or someone else's malpractice of the rituals, which makes him so different than the other characters who were more or less made up in a fully urban and progressive background. This is unique in another way as Bibhuti Bhushan started it and his son Aruadas continued it and shaped up him properly, which has gained the cult following in much latter times. If Feluda is for mystery, Shonku is for science fiction, Satyajit completed the circle by creating Irene Chern Banerjee for supernatural ones. As Satyajit was mainly a storyteller, he uses different devices for each of his characters. For Feluda, his assistant is describing the story on the go. We are reading some pages from the journal maintained by Shanku, and here, Tarini Koro is sharing his larger-than-life experiences to the kids. In his words, he exaggerates some part of the story for art's sake, but the main plot is intact. He traveled several cities, villages and states for his work, which he always chose himself. He is a believer of both science and spook, which he experienced many times and in many forms. Remember we mentioned about polemical Bengalis, Tenida will always be remembered as one of the most radiant ones. To summarize, he is the Ghananda with less political stories. Tenida tells about his misadventures to some of his juniors, bullies them, commands to treat him with snacks. In many stories, we see this Bojo Hari Mukherjee and his gang are standing like idiots in the end, where some other police, director or a guardian of them is explaining what actually happened. That is the beauty. You for the unknown, by almost every Bengali who writes something. Yes, we have an unimaginable crave for the unknowns, or the ghosts, spooks, spirits, phantoms, animated skeletons, ectoplasms, demons, monsters, flesh-eaters, hobgoblins and other 340 million versions of the paranormal or supernatural beings. I can remember at least one story where all the characters and writers mentioned in this list had to deal with a ghost or some fake aspect of it. Forget about Wikipedia and Blogspot. Even 9gag.com has a long page of the list of different types of Bengali ghosts. You are welcome. V for Vyomkesh, by Shiradendu Bondapadey. Yes, we have done it again by turning Vyomkesh to make the list full. He is the only non-mythological character who has been portrayed in TV, stage and for screen by at least 17 different people over time. Most of his major cases, there are straightforward or hidden hint of adultery which can be an element of his popularity. On the other hand, a common theme of Shiradendu's mystery novels were that all of the suspects would have done some kind of bad things in some point of time. And, my favorite, the use of cool gadgets and techniques which made the pulp stories classic in minutes. Sorry to say, if I tell any of them, those will be spoilers. W for Warauda, by Shiradendu Bondapadey, again. Stretching a little bit more, Borauda becomes Warauda. Shiradendu has mentioned Vyomkesh a truth seeker and Warauda as a ghost seeker. The stories are one of the few ones which were not set up in Calcutta. The most of the episodes involve evening gathering in a Bengali clubhouse where he is the storyteller. Some of his spooky adventures leads the other audiences going to some pace of events. The audience contains two listeners, one non-believer and a latecomer. In one story, Warauda meets Vyomkesh, which might be considered as a milestone of an early modern crossovers. X for extremely sorry, by this YouTube channel owner. If you can forgive me for the laziness of 1 year, kindly consider this one too. I really could not find any Bengali name having X in it, or even Ranjana. If any good person knows anything like this, please let me know so I can clip that somehow in the next edition. Y for Ugoratna Tektiki, by Ashwaporna Devi. Another gem by the author, but this time it is detective series. Here there are two detectives who are more like co-workers like Banu and Johar rather than detective and assistants like Feluda and Topshay. The USP is that the duo Diapa and Modon were pickpockets who have opened an office to use their intel to investigate crimes. R. Ashwaporna used the classic and contemporary forms of Ex Machina in all stories and kind of celebrated this style without trying to hide it. Z for Zotayu, by Satyajit Ray. The pen name of the fictional writer Lama Gangali is Zotayu, which was under consideration because we are already including Feluda. The character of this mystery suspense thriller writer was introduced after a couple of Feluda stories as a comic relief, but he became the most lovable characters of the series, along with some awesome villains. This guy is actually us. He has all the shortcomings of an average Bengali. To show our gratitude, let us put the fan-made version of his books here for a change.
हंसेगा नहीं छल करती छल छल करती चट्टानों से क्रीड़ा करती कभी इधर इधर कभी उधर उधर कभी इधर मुड़ कभी उधर मुड़ बन पर्वत में लिपटी चिपटी छिपटी छिपटी तिरकुमा इधर 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 धरती के है किसी छोर से बन पर्वत किसी मोड़ से बूंद बूंद से बड़ा है कौन धार धार से जुड़ा है कौन उसको खाते